Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, evening. As you're joining us from wherever you are in our divinely feminine space that we create every week, I'm Deborah Roth at Spirited Living, and I've been doing this now for over a year, just about every week. I don't know that I've missed many. And some people ask me, what does this have to do with my coaching and my interfaith ministering? And for me, it represents all of it. It really, when we are honoring the divine feminine in ourselves and looking to engage ourselves in the world with that energy, we can't help but move forward in our life, our work, our relationships in a more spirited, in a more sacred way. So for me, when we talk about the divine feminine, it's intimately woven, well, certainly into every part of my life. And if we look at the qualities of compassion and nurturing and listening, deep listening, honoring our bodies, honoring our intuition and our emotions, not feeling like we have to stuff things, which certainly could be a lot of things to stuff lately. All of that enriches our lives. All of that gives us a more spirited entry point into every aspect of our lives. So this week, going back into the Greek pantheon, well, actually even before the pantheon, going back into Greek mythology with THEMIS. And THEMIS was the Greek, she actually was a titaness. She was one of the titans, which was actually the group of gods and goddesses that came before Zeus and all of the Olympians. THEMIS was the quintessential goddess of justice, of law and order, of fairness. And her symbol, we still, is the Lady of Justice that we think of today, holding a sword. And I actually have two images of her, and I'll explain to you why I do. So there she is, holding a sword and holding scales, being the symbol of balance. We are in, right now, the energy, we're in the season of Libra, of the astrological sign of Libra. And you can see this one, she actually has a blindfold on to show that nothing can interfere with her perfect sense of fairness and justice. There's nothing that she would see that would sway her. She will listen completely to her heart and balance what she hears in the scales, and fight will cut through to the truth. That's what the sword represents. Now, the second one that I have of her is without the blindfold, because I discovered on reading and researching more that it's actually her Roman counterpart, Justitia, who is shown with a blindfold. And so nowadays, what we often call THEMIS in our representations of her has a blindfold, but that's not really THEMIS. In her original personification, she was without a blindfold because she was just felt to be the pure essence of justice. And in fact, THEMIS means divine order. And the Greeks believed that she was the one who dispensed THEMIS wisdom, which was divine order, which was brought about by custom and by the gods, not nomos, I think it was called, which was the rules of man, of humankind. So she was revered in ancient Rome, and there were temples to her everywhere. Now, her history is kind of interesting because she was one of the few titans that actually became an Olympian. So, little explanation about that. The titans were the 12 sons and daughters of Uranus, who was heaven, and Gaia, who was earth. And there were six male titans, 6 female titans, and they rose up and overthrew Uranus, and Kronos became the head guy. Kronos means time. And he was the head of the next stage of the Titans, the rule of the Titans. Then there was a big war of the Titans, and their children rose up, and that's when Zeus kind of took over and became who sat on the throne of Olympus. Now, when the War of the Titans was going on, this is so fun. I don't know about you, but this stuff is so fun for me. When the War of the Titans went on, the female Titanesses did not participate. So Zeus actually welcomed THEMIS into the Olympus, into the Mount Olympus, which was where all the current gods and goddesses who had won the battle of the Titans were residing. And there seems to be, in a lot of the writings of the time of ancient Greece, it appears that THEMIS was actually the second wife of Zeus. First one was Metis, and if you know your Greek mythology, she was the one that was swallowed by, because he got mad at her. Zeus was not the nicest god, not the nicest guy. He swallowed Metis, and it was from her head that Athena arose. That's a whole other story. So Thetis came on the scene, and she, because of her purity of justice and law and order, and her ability to really bring a sense of piety was the word that came up a couple times, to her rulings. She was always able to, unlike Zeus's other wives, they always maintained a good relationship. And in fact, we hear now that Zeus's wife that we hear most about was Hera, and THEMIS actually even continued to have a really lovely relationship with Hera. And she went on to counsel Zeus in strategizing. Apparently she laid the plan for the Trojan War. And that, again, that's a whole other story. And she was someone who Zeus counseled with because of her wisdom, because of her sense of fairness. And it's interesting because she was actually one of the most beloved of all the Greek goddesses. I think I mentioned that there were temples to her all over, and which was unusual because the Titans, remember she was originally a Titan, once removed from the Olympic gods and goddesses, and they were thought to be very distant and kind of austere and not friendly to humans, but she was very much beloved because of her connection to to law and order. She also, in the beginning, was associated with all the auric wisdom, all the oracular wisdom, all the prophetic places. Delphi, which became so well known in the ancient world, with the Delphic Oracle, where you would go to have the oracle there foresee the future for you. And she eventually, wasn't clear the places that I read, whether it was kind of taken from her or whether she passed it on to Apollo, when the Olympic gods and goddesses were getting themselves established. And he immediately killed the oracle to show that he now had ownership. She just rose above all of that. And I love, especially now, she feels like such an important energy of peace and balance and harmony, all very Libran energy stuff, in this time of just such tumult that we're in. And she seems to rise above more than so many other of the Greek gods and goddesses who had so many, so much drama around them and so many stories of killings and rapes and just there's a lot of horrible mythology in the Greek storyboard. She was one that just everyone seemed to love her. She and Zeus, too, and I thought this was interesting, gave birth to several people, but she gave birth to the Moira, I think is how you say it, and they were was it the Moira, who are the, the Fates, the three Fates. And then the Horae, who were depicted the seasons, also three sisters. And they were the arbiters of time and keeping order in a timely way, which, again, that brings us back to Themis's dedication to creating order for humankind. That's the basis of her. Let me skim over my notes and see if there's any good stuff that I left out. I think I've hit all of it. Yeah. This was kind of interesting. So I mentioned piety. She first instructed humankind in the primal laws of justice and morality, including the precepts of piety, how to be sacred, religious or spiritual, the rules of hospitality, good governance. So really worked, in the governance of Greece. Conduct of assembly. So when you come together, how do you come together as a crowd in a meaningful, balanced way? And then how do you make offerings to the gods? I think that's one of the reasons that gods all loved her too. So that's a look at Themis. And the new moon in Libra is next Wednesday, October 6th. We may invoke her a little bit, my new moon circle that I do. You can check out my website for more information about that, spiritedliving.com. And we'll be looking at relationships, because relationships are all about balance and harmony. And I usually bring in, and I think I may save my pictures that I printed out for Themis to make her live there as well. So the chant that I will leave you with is one about balance. It's the balance of masculine and feminine energies. And remember, it's not male-female, it can be, but it's the energies of peace and compassion and intuition and emotion. That's the feminine side of things. And rational, logical, strategic thinking. And we need both of them. And so this chant, not a Greek one, goes Shtira, see if I get it right. Shtira, Sukha, Asana. So the Shtira is the masculine quality of strength and courage. Shtira, Sukham is ease and flow. And Asanam is the energy. It's an asana, which is a pose, but it's more just the energy of having this balance of masculine and feminine. And so it goes like this again. Shtira, Sukha, Asana. Shtira, Sukha, Asana. Thank you so much for being with me. Hi, John. We just talked about Themis and sang a little chant to her, to the concept of balance and justice and divine order. Thank you all for being with me, and if you've tuned in later, you can always listen to the recording, and I'll see you here next week. Namaste.